Hey all, Jason Levon, priest at St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and welcome to another edition of Pause and Pray. As I find myself struggling to swim in these crazy, chaotic waters of the pandemic these days, with all the staying at home and changes that this is bringing to me, I've found some relief on a nightly basis, thanks to a small snippet at the end of the world news on ABC. It's a snippet called America Strong, and it's just a few minutes of really positive and hopeful news. I suspect that one of the reasons why I gravitate towards it is that because while I'm swimming in all of this uncertainty, it's segments like that that help remind me that there is a deeper current in life than all of those waters I'm struggling to swim in. A current that's trying to carry life to hope and love and possibility. And last night's segment reflected that in beautiful ways with stories about the ways in which grown-ups are helping children find that deeper current, able to carry them to life and hope and love and possibility in these uncertain times. One story was a story of a 10-year-old boy at Duke Hospital in North Carolina named Reese Loggins. He's fighting for his life with leukemia. And one of the ways in which Reese is able to connect with that deeper current and the hope in which it's able to carry him, or towards which it's able to carry him, is by looking out the window and marveling at the work of all of these construction workers who have been hard at work on a big project while he's been in the hospital getting treatment. The construction workers caught wind of this, and the other day when he turned 10 years old, they bought him a bicycle and had it hoisted up on a crane and brought to the window of his hospital room. And outside, all these construction workers were giving him a standing ovation. Or I think of another story they aired last night, a mother in Australia, Pat Mahoney, and what she says to her 2-year-old daughter, Georgia, every time she puts Georgia to bed. There was video of her putting Georgia to bed, and she goes through this litany with her daughter. She says to Georgia, Georgia is, and then Georgia responds with a word. So Georgia is smart. Georgia is important. Georgia is strong. Georgia is kind. And then the last one, the mother says, and most importantly, Georgia is, and Georgia answered with a smile, saying, loved. I think of the work of an amazing spiritual writer, a hero of mine, Benedictine brother David Steindl-Rast, who reflects extensively on the gift of gratitude and peace in life. And Brother Rast talks about God as though God were a direction or a current in life, trying to catch us all up into that current, a current that works to carry life into gratitude, into joy, into peace in the midst of all that we may happen to be swimming in. And Scripture certainly reflects on that same gift of God as this current that tries to catch life up into it and carry it to deeper life and hope and possibility. In our daily office today, our first reading comes from chapter 15 of Exodus, where the people have just made their way through the Red Sea. Talk about their life being carried in a whole new direction and current. And while everything seems to be going well for them in that moment, and they see this future of hope and possibility, they're led to proclaim God's praises in song as Miriam leads them in this song of thanksgiving. But we don't just experience that current of God carrying us through life's waters when things seem to all be coming together. We also experience it in the depth of heartache and pain, pandemic and persecution. Our second reading for the daily office today comes from the first letter of Peter, written to a church that was stymied by all of this persecution and struggle and pain. And in the midst of that, Peter trying to get them to see that there's a deeper current underneath all of that persecution, a current of God's imperishable love working to intensify their own love for one another. And it would be that mutual love, that imperishable love at work beneath the persecution that would not only sustain them, but birth them into a new life and possibility and sense of community. That's a gift of Easter this world really needs at this time. To pause and to pray to reflect upon all the ways in which we experience that deeper current of God, that Easter current of God, beneath all the tumultuous and scary and crazy and uncertain waters of life in which we may happen to be swimming these days. We experience that gift in construction workers who remind 10-year-old boys that there's so much more than a leukemia diagnosis, or in parents or mentors or friends who instill in us the truth that no matter what kind of waters we may find ourselves swimming in, the most important thing is that we're loved and that we're not alone. Or maybe it's even in the gift of all of this time that this pandemic has brought to us as we find ourselves staying home and not going out. Time to think and reflect. And I know that if I'm honest, that before this pandemic, I wasn't always caught up in good and life-giving and holy currents. And I don't want to go back to that if that's what normal is. Instinctively, I know that I need the gift of Easter, which is not a gift that brings us back to normal, but rather catches us up in this amazing redemptive current of God that flows beneath all of the waters of life, all to carry us not back to normal, but ahead into new life, new hope, new promise, and new possibility, and new peace. God's Easter peace and blessings to you all.